Cyrus II circa 530 BC, also known as Cyrus the Great, was the fourth king of Anshan and the first king of the Achaemenid Empire. Cyrus led several military campaigns against the most powerful kingdoms of the time, including Media, Lydia, and Babylonia. Through these campaigns, he united much of the Middle East under Persian hegemony, keeping the local administration largely intact. By securing some continuity and thus winning the loyalty of the elite, he laid the foundation for the Achaemenid Empire. Watch the video until the end to know the incredible story of this king who is mentioned 23 times in the Bible. Welcome to the Myths and Curiosities channel. Already leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any notifications. Not much is known about Cyrus' early life. The various oral traditions relating to his birth and youth are preserved only in the works of Greek authors such as Herodotus, Ctesias, and Xenophon. Cyrus was the son of the Persian king Cambyses, 580 to 559 BC, and the Median princess Mandane, daughter of the Median king Astyages, 585 to 550 BC. Cyrus' first major conquest was the conquest of Ecbatana, the Median capital ruled by Astyages. According to the Cylinder of Nabonidus of Sippar, Cyrus, king of Anshan, rose against his lord, the Median king Astyages, in 553 BC. After defeating the vast Median hordes with his small army, he captured Astyages and brought him back to his homeland. The Nabonidus Chronicle instead states that Astyages marched on Cyrus in 550 BC, but his army rebelled against him, took him captive, and handed him over to Cyrus. Cyrus then took Ecbatana and took the spoils. After his victory over Astyages, Cyrus founded the city of Pasargadae on the site of the battle. Pasargadae served as the ceremonial capital of the early Achaemenid Empire and was never meant to house a large population. The city consists of several monumental buildings scattered across the plain of Murgab, most notably the Tali Taht, a stone citadel on top of a steep hill, the residential palace, the S-Palace, a columned audience hall, and finally the tombs of Cyrus and his son Cambyses. Pasargadae's monuments contain influences from across the known world, including Assyrian-style carvings and Ionic-style masonry. The tomb of Cyrus is believed to depict a Mesopotamian or Elamite ziggurat with an Urartian-style cella on top. Pasargadae only flourished for a short time, with Persepolis assuming its role as ceremonial capital in 515 BC. Cyrus conquered Lydia sometime between the fall of Ecbatana, 550 BC, and the fall of Babylon, 539 BC. According to Herodotus, Cyrus, king of Lydia 560 to 547 BC, who started the war by crossing the Halys River and sacking Tyria, a Cappadocian city within the Median sphere of influence. Cyrus was an ally and brother-in-law of Astyages, so upon hearing that Cyrus had deposed Astyages, he swore to avenge him. The two armies met near Tyria, but the battle ended in a stalemate. When Cyrus decided to march his army home for the winter season, Cyrus pursued him to Lydia and confronted him a second time near Timbra. Cyrus sent dromedaries to disperse Lydia's cavalry, forcing Cyrus to retreat to his capital, Sardis, which fell after a 14-day siege. After the fall of Sardis, Cyrus placed a Lydian named Pactyes in charge of Cyrus's treasury. Pactyes' job was to ship these treasures to Persia, but instead he organized a revolt, hiring mercenaries. Cyrus sent his general Mazars to quell the rebellion, but due to his untimely death, it was Harpagus who completed the conquest of Asia Minor, capturing the cities of Lycia, Cilicia, and Phoenicia through earthworks. After strengthening his influence over the eastern part of the Iranian plateau, Cyrus turned his attention to the Sakai nomads. He captured their king Amorges, but Amorges' wife Sperithra gathered an army of 300,000 men and 200,000 women and defeated Cyrus in battle. Cyrus released Amorges, and the two kings became allies, attacking Lydia together. Finally, Cyrus must have conquered the region of Armenia in the middle of the 6th century BC. In 539 BC, Cyrus invaded the Babylonian Empire, following the banks of the Jinns on his way to Babylon. He supposedly dug channels to divert the stream from the river, making it easier to cross. Cyrus encountered and defeated the Babylonian army in battle near Opis, where the Diyala flows into the Tigris. After that, the people of Sippar opened their gates to him without resistance. The Babylonian king Nabonidus fled, and Cyrus sent his servant Ugbru, governor of Gudium, to capture Babylon. Ugbru captured the outer quarters of Babylon, with only the temple district of Esagil remaining under Babylonian control. After 2 weeks, Cyrus was received in Babylon with festivities. With Babylon under Persian control, Cyrus could add the title of King of Babylon to his name. He inherited all the territories that had belonged to the Babylonian Empire and apparently had no problem pacifying those regions. In fact, Harpagus may have already conquered much of the Mediterranean coast before Cyrus attacked Babylon. Cyrus now ruled the fertile river valleys of Mesopotamia, as well as the rich Mediterranean coast. Not long after the conquest of Babylon, Cyrus commissioned an inscription to be written in his name. This inscription, better known as the Cyrus Cylinder, served to explain and justify Cyrus' conquest of Babylon to a Babylonian audience. The document strongly appeals to Babylonian ideals of royalty. Nabonidus is described as an incompetent and wicked king, while Cyrus is described as a divinely appointed savior. The Cyrus Cylinder begins by stating that Nabonidus neglected the cult of Marduk, the patron god of Babylon. Nabonidus actually preferred the moon god Sin to the national god Marduk, so there may be some truth to that. Still, it is likely that the neglect of the Marduk cult was heavily exaggerated. Nabonidus also imposed heavy labor on his people, perhaps in preparation for the Persian invasion. Marduk, feeling sorry for the people of Babylon, searches all lands for a truly just king, eventually choosing Cyrus of Anshan. Marduk leads Cyrus to victory over the Medes and helps him capture Babylon without a battle. Cyrus then introduces himself first as King of Babylon, King of Anshan, descendant of Teispes and favorite of Marduk. Cyrus claims that he did not plunder the city, that he did not scare anyone, that he worshipped Marduk daily, and that he freed the people of Babylon from the heavy toil Nabonidus imposed on them. Cyrus also claims to have returned the idols, which Nabonidus brought to Babylon from temples throughout Mesopotamia, back to their temples, along with the temple staff. Cyrus ends his speech with a prayer to Marduk and a description of his building activities. Although it is often assumed that Cyrus was a Zoroastrian, there are no contemporary sources that describe him as a follower of Zarathustra or even a worshipper of Ahura Mazda. Before that time, there was no orthodoxy, and Iranians adhered to a wide range of loosely associated beliefs and practices. It is likely that Cyrus was a polytheist who grew up worshipping traditional Iranian gods. Xenophon describes him as swearing an oath to Mitra, the Iranian god of oaths, but he may have turned to other gods for other purposes. It should therefore not surprise us that Cyrus offers sacrifice to the Babylonian gods Marduk and Nabu. This was his way of placating the gods of the lands he conquered. Cyrus the Great is venerated in the Hebrew Bible for conquering Babylon and freeing the Jews from captivity. He is mentioned 23 times by name and alluded to several more times. According to the Bible, Cyrus the Great was impelled by God to decree that the temple in Jerusalem be rebuilt and that Jews who wished could return to their land for this purpose. In addition, he showed his interest in the project by sending back with them the sacred vessels that had been taken from the first temple and a considerable sum of money to buy building materials. These quotes are in the book of Isaiah, in the book of Ezra, in the book of Daniel. As with his birth and youth, not much is known about the last 9 years of Cyrus' life. Herodotus claims that Cyrus died fighting the Massagedae, a nomadic people who lived on the other side of the Iaxartes. Queen Tomyris of the Massagedae supposedly decapitated Cyrus to avenge her son's death at her hands. It is likely that Cyrus actually died in Central Asia while trying to expand his influence over the region. From Babylonian letters, it is known that Cyrus died before December 530 BC. He was buried in his tomb at Pasargadae, along with his robe, his weapons, and his jewels. After his death, Cyrus was succeeded by his son Cambyses II. between the beginning of his revolt against Astyages in 553 BC and his death in 530 BC, Cyrus united all lands between the Aegean Sea under his rule. Through several quick campaigns, he dethroned many powerful kings, appointing Persian satraps in their place or claiming the title of king for himself. In this way, he established Persian rule over the entire Middle East. When conquering a kingdom, Cyrus often allowed local officials to maintain their position. In this way, the administrative infrastructure remained intact. He also accommodated the cultural and religious practice of the lands he conquered, thus earning the respect of his subjects and ensuring the allegiance of traditional elites in the kingdoms he conquered, such as the middle nobility and the Babylonian priesthood. In order to truly understand the significance of Cyrus' policy towards the subjugated population, it must be borne in mind that the Achaemenid Empire at that time was little more than a personal collection of kingdoms that Cyrus had conquered. This empire was held together primarily through personal loyalty to the king. Over time, the imperial structure of the Achaemenid Empire became more standardized, particularly after Darius' reforms, but it was Cyrus who, through his conquests and his ability to inspire loyalty among his subjects, laid the foundations of the empire. Achaemenid. What did you think of the story of Cyrus the Great? Tell me in the comments, and if you liked it, share this video and subscribe to the channel to help bring good content every day. See you in the next video.